All right, change of plans, y'all. I'm at Mesa Verde National Park. I was supposed to get up this morning and drive back up to Silverton, Colorado, and then on to Ouray. I was going to be on the $1 Million Highway with no guardrails and no shoulder, a treacherous highway that I've heard a lot of nomads say they just don't want to drive. And it was going to be raining today, and I already had a gut feeling that I just didn't need to be driving that road today. And so instead of going north, I went west. So here we are, Mesa Verde National Park. Gonna check that out. And then we'll slowly make our way up toward Telluride. Probably won't make it there tonight, but camp along the way somewhere, and we'll get there tomorrow. We'll get there when we get there, right? So, kind of fun going off script a little bit, don't you think? Anyway, all right, let's go check this out. Mesa Verde National Park was established by Theodore Roosevelt in 1906. It's the only national park to be created to preserve ancestral Pueblo culture and prehistoric architecture. The park preserves an extraordinary record of these Pueblo people who made Mesa Verde their home for over 750 years. So I wanted to see Cliff Palace, which is this, and it turns out you have to have a reservation for that. And the ranger said they thought they were all sold out, that I wouldn't be able to get in there, but I looked on recreation.gov. There are a few tickets left, so I snagged one of those, and they say I have just enough time to drive down there to catch the museum film and to get in there, meet the ranger, and get in there to see it. So let's go. All right, we're headed down there. It's a little overcast today, but it's still a beautiful park. GPS says it'll take 40 minutes. The ranger says it will take 75 minutes, so we will see. Well, I guess I gotta pay to get in here or use my park pass. Here we go. Well, we've got a pretty stunning view of the valley down below. We're climbing the mountain here. Scenic drive, there's signs everywhere. No pulling over, no parking. Keep going. That's what we'll do. So there's no cell signal. I'm back to SOS. I thought about checking into being able to camp down here, but there's no signal to do that. I think I would need a reservation on rec.gov. We'll figure something out though. Sorry.
It just said don't bring your backpack.
You got these stones over here. You could come as well. There's more seats over here.
He said we can move it. We get over and lean on that one.
Yeah, we got some rocks over here as well.
Pretty spectacular.
Knowledge. It is said that when humanity emerged from the world below and came onto this, the earth, they were sent on a path of migration, but could only exist on the earth so long as they made a promise that they would protect the earth, that of course they would use the natural world to benefit their family, their friends, their community, their way of life, but do so in a way that does not harm the environment, but instead is a shared relationship with the environment in which you live in. Every time you take from the earth, you give gratitude right back to it in a shared relationship. And so the Ancestral Pueblo took on that promise, and 1,500 years ago, they settled up there. And above our heads, this is what we call a cuesta. A cuesta, translated from Spanish to English, translates to a slope. These southward-facing canyons provide a longer growing season. They're filled with nutrient-rich minerals, the very ones that are underneath your feet, that can be up to 20 feet deep and have been windswept over thousands of years from Arizona and New Mexico and deposited here. In addition to that, water flows through this soil, providing moisture to the plants, the animals, and to whatever crops you grow in the area. And so the Ancestral Pueblo realized this was a good place to settle, and they began to build their homes up there. We know some of the first ancestors did try to build their homes right inside this house in the year 500. But we know that they didn't stick around, and likely, as we all just experienced, the journey to get down here is not necessarily the easiest. And if your family, your friends, your food, your community is up there, then there's really not a reason to move down here. So it is up there first where they lived, and building small circular pit house structures very similar to the kiva, the room that's right in front of you, sir, right over here, that we'll also be able to see as we make our way up. And those first small circular homes are where they were able to first learn the skills of how to exist and live in this environment. This is not the easiest environment to live in. One of the things that they needed to master is how to harvest water, how to gather water on a landscape like this. They gathered these stones that are right underneath your feet. They lined them up about 3 feet deep against the flow of water down the cuesta, building check dams and terraces to retain the moisture on the landscape so that as water flowed, it would be held back, the moisture would be present, and whatever was in its way, especially your crops, would continue to grow even in periods of drought. It would not only benefit your crops, but it would also benefit the plants and the animals in the landscape. We also know, too, that they built reservoirs. You can get a good example of one out at Farview sites. How many of you have been to Farview sites? Okay, 2. Great. We need more people to go to Farview sites. Really special space, and what you'll see in Farview sites is actually one of those original reservoirs. We have several in the landscape, but that's just one of the ones that's public. The west is that way.
Okay.
So it's west facing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's
So this structure here is a kiva. A kiva is a subterranean structure in the Ancestral Pueblo world and today in Pueblo societies that is reserved for religious and ceremonial purpose. It is a space of prayer. It is a space of faith. It is a space for song and ceremony. A space as well for the passing on of traditions and knowledge from one generation to the next. This is a space where you learn about where your ancestors came from. The stories of your family, the stories of your clan, of your grandparents are told in these kivas. The knowledge of how to build a cliff dwelling is shared in this very space. We know that originally it would have had a wooden roof extending from one pilaster to the next. These would have been the supports for that roof. It would have basically been cribbed or basically woven on top of itself, almost like an upside down basket, with then a thick layer of mortar on top and then a thick layer of plaster, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that this was actually here. All of you would have been able to walk over it, for the exception of a small square hole in the center. That small square hole would then guide you down into the chamber via a ladder, and then you can conduct your prayer, your faith, your ceremony around this fire pit. This right here is an air vent channeling in fresh air that cools as it makes its way through the stone, emerges out into the kiva, hits the deflector wall, and then cycles all the way around, providing air conditioning and ventilation to the people inside the house, or inside the chamber, sorry. Once you had concluded your ceremony, then you would emerge from the ladder, recreating the story of your ancestors, emerging from one world into the next. In Hopi traditional knowledge, it is understood that some of the clans, when they were set on their migratory path, would travel in a clockwise fashion. Some of the clans would travel in a counterclockwise fashion, going all the way around. Along the way, they might stop, grow some corn, build some homes, learn some lessons, and then decide it is time to move on. That is the story of the people who called Cliff Palace their home 800 years ago. If you talk to a historian like myself, scholars and anthropologists, they will tell you that the reason people left this place is because in the 1100s and 1200s, there were periods of severe drought on the landscape. There wasn't as much water. Because there wasn't enough water and resources could be scarce, at times there were periods of social conflict. The combination of the two made life on the landscape at times difficult. And so it was a decision to have to go somewhere else in the hopes of peace and sustainability. If you talk to the Pueblo and Hopi, they might tell you that some of those things are true. But what they will also tell you is that the story of their ancestors is a story of migration, that Mesa Verde had taught them the lessons they needed to learn, and now the land was tired. The land needed to rest. And so they took on their traditions and carried them to the south, to Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, where they built pueblos just like this one, where they still retain the same traditions that were shared in this kiva, are still being shared in their kivas 800 years later today. We understand too that they will tell you that the life of Mesa Verde never faded away. Not only are the ancestors present, but these cliff dwellings still stand as a testament to the life that exists on the landscape. And I believe that, because if we look all around us, we are all living people with beating hearts and breathing lungs, learning how to be humans in a world that can sometimes be difficult to live in, still gathered around a kiva as they did 800 years ago, passing on knowledge from one generation to the next. So I thank you so much for being part of the life of this national park. It was a pleasure to have you here on my tour. Your migration journey continues out that way.
Well, that was not part of the planned trip, but I'm glad that I skipped today's agenda and came here. What an amazing tour. Amazing that all that has persevered over hundreds of years. What a beautiful place. Now it's raining, so we're gonna go up, climb some ladders to get out of here, and go find a place to camp tonight. This is sort of like spelunking. Well, you know, sometimes the coolest stuff is not on the planned agenda, so sometimes you need to take the other fork in the road and see what you can find. Man, that was pretty amazing. Let's head down the road, find a place to camp. I don't know where it's gonna be. Somewhere between here and Telluride, I hope. Okay, let's check this out. This is Bureau of Land Management and Property. It's just about 5 miles from the visitor center at Mesa Verde National Park. This one's called Chutes and Ladders. So let's go see what's up here, what they got. I really need some water. I've got enough water, I guess, but I might go into Cortez and get some 3 gallons of water and a couple things. But I just wanted to see what's here, if I want to stay here or move on along. Here's the first site. Okay, this is all right. This is all right. Let's keep going. Let's see what's on up the road. It's a little bit washed out, but that's okay. We've seen worse on this trip. All right, we're still going. I've seen four campers in the next 4 spots. So I don't know if there's any more spots up here or not. Go see. You might have to go back down to that first one or go to plan B. There's somebody in spot number 9. I think that might be the last spot, but let's go up here and see. Let's keep going. There's spot number 10. I kind of like that one. I think that might be the ticket right there, but let's keep going. Oh, there's somebody up here. There's somebody up here. Right there. Let's see, this might be the end of the line. Okay, that's spot 12. That would work. There's 2 bars of 5G up this road. There was nothing back at the beginning. So I just looked, there's 15 spots. So let's just see what else there is. Here's one. I don't know what this is, what number this is. This must be 13. Lucky 13. This is a big spot. Oh, there's somebody in here. Okay, there's RVs in all the rest of the spots. So let's go back up here and take number 12. It's probably not as desirable to these folks because it's at an angle, but that doesn't matter to me. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, I think this will be fine. This is spot number 12. A little bit of view off this way. Let's go see. We might be on the bluff here. I don't know. Let's go take a look up here. Looks like there's a fire pit. You could, I guess you could tent camp up in here. Yeah, that's pretty. There's overlooking the valley down below. Okay, you guys, I think this will definitely work. We are about 5 minutes from Mesa Verde National Park. We are in Bureau of Land Management, BLM, free camping overnight. This one is called Chutes and Ladders. I am down in spot number 12. Happy to have this. And it's a beautiful spot. Gorgeous background of the national park there. And I think this will be a nice quiet spot for the evening. Got 1 or 2 bars of 5G internet, and I think this will do just fine. So tomorrow we'll head on down the road to Telluride and stay there for a couple of nights. And then after Telluride, it'll be on to Utah and the national parks. And for dinner tonight, we are having Mountain House Buffalo style chicken mac and cheese. Chicken and macaroni and a spicy cheese sauce with carrots and celery. All right, let's turn this baby on. All right. Woo. Temp's dropping, but it's still pleasant out here. Sun setting. Very nice. Very nice. All right, while you were away, it's ready now. And this one's a winner. This is really, really good. And I've got some English breakfast tea, decaffeinated tea with powdered milk going. Yep. This mac and cheese. Buffalo mac and cheese. It really is. I like this a lot better than the curry I had. I love the chili mac. I love this one, buffalo style chicken mac and cheese. And I like the stew. The stew doesn't look like much, but it tastes pretty good. I've got some others I'll try on this trip, maybe when we get to Utah. All right, that's it for the evening. I will see you tomorrow.